Well, never mind all that stuff, because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered. Yeah, I know, amazing. But that means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my God, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a host who's always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim.
Sunny Hostin just had a full-on meltdown. And no, Mercury isn't in retrograde. Greg Gutfeld called her out so hard, even the teleprompter couldn't keep up. Hypocrisy, exposed. Drama, off the charts. Tissues, flying off the shelves. If you've ever wanted to witness someone unravel faster than a cheap wig in a wind tunnel, this is your moment. It's the showdown no one expected, unless you've ever watched The View. And wait till you hear what she said once the camera stopped rolling.
On The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up on the beach and you want to poke it with a stick.
Sunny Hostin finally cracked, and not the usual kind of cracking that happens on The View when someone asks a question more complex than what's your favorite color. No, this was a full-blown, high-definition, 4K Ultra HD televised meltdown. The catalyst, Greg Gutfeld, who managed to expose more hypocrisy in 2 minutes than The View has swept under the rug in the last 2 decades.
So, Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID for about 3 years.
I haven't been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years. That's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue I think for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs. You know those big Bounty towels you don't want to carry.
Those from Costco.
Somebody else goes.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip.
It all began like any typical Tuesday on The View, a blend of group therapy vibes, loud affirmations, mutual back-patting, and the usual delusion that they were single-handedly saving democracy, one misinformed take at a time. Sunny Hostin, ever in her starring role as the show's resident legal expert, though with the precision of a teen playing guitar hero, enthusiastic but wildly off-key, took center stage. Her insights, that everything bad is someone else's fault, and facts are entirely optional as long as you deliver them with enough passion.
His obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she...
If you've never watched The View, just picture the comments section of a political Facebook page. Only it's hosted by people who skimmed a Wikipedia article on the Constitution and now think they're constitutional scholars. Sunny fits right in. She's the group's so-called voice of reason. If your definition of reason includes shouting threat to democracy anytime someone dares to challenge her latte-fueled worldview.
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life. that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
But then, oh sweet karma, Greg Gutfeld stepped in, and that's when the real fun began. Gutfeld isn't exactly polished in the traditional sense. He's more like the sharp-tongued dinner guest who says what everyone else is too polite to admit. And apparently, no one warned Sunny that sarcasm is still legal in most states. The moment Gutfeld started highlighting her greatest hits of hypocrisy, Sunny folded faster than a deck chair in a hurricane. First up, her uncanny ability to demand civil discourse, just weeks after labeling half the country a roaming horde of democracy-destroying goblins. For Sunny, civil discourse only applies if you agree with her 100%. Disagree? Congratulations, you're now an accomplice to murder. That's the logic, folks. It was a spectacular blend of courtroom theatrics and middle school lunchroom drama. And Greg wasn't done. He went full forensic accountant on her, pulling receipts like he was auditing her entire public career. 1 minute she's condemning family separations at the border. The next, when her favorite administration does the exact same thing, it's suddenly a complex policy issue far too sophisticated for the average mind. Hypocrisy? She might as well have it embroidered on a throw pillow.
Milk this till the end of time. You're right. Anytime she says something stupid, I'm going to go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Do you think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay.
Greg laid it all out. Sunny's outrage operates like a light switch, flipped on when a conservative so much as sneezes, and conveniently off when a liberal face plants into the Constitution. She's the type to demand investigations into someone's tweet history while defending politicians who couldn't spell ethics if you spotted them the E and the T dot. And the best part, the audience at The View reacted like the loyal congregation they've always been. Greg could have handed them a leather-bound photo album of Sunny's contradictions, autographed by Sunny herself, and they'd still boo him for spreading hate. Naturally, Sunny did what every modern TV personality has perfected. She played the victim card faster than you can say, audience sympathy, with a trembling voice and the well-rehearsed tears of someone who's clearly attended media training 3 times this year. She transformed Gutfeld's critique into an all-out assault, not just on her, but on all women, all minorities, and probably every rescue puppy in existence. Because when the facts aren't on your side, just expand the battlefield until it's nothing but emotion.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got...
Sunny, who's spent years comfortably perched on her ABC throne, hurling insults at millions of Americans, suddenly found herself in tears because someone dared to point out that she contradicts herself more often than a motivational speaker with commitment issues. It was emotional gymnastics worthy of a gold medal. If Olympic judges scored based on sheer lack of self-awareness, The View's response? Oh, they circled the wagons like cowboys in an old western. Except instead of fending off outlaws, they were defending Sunny from the terrifying ordeal of being fact-checked. Whoopi Goldberg even delivered a rousing pep talk that basically boiled down to, remember, facts are a social construct if you feel strongly enough about them. Meanwhile, producers reportedly scrambled behind the scenes, deeply concerned about Sunny's emotional well-being. Because apparently, being called out for public hypocrisy on a national platform isn't just another Tuesday for a TV pundit. But for Sunny, this time it was different, probably because this time the facts actually showed up.
Behar gets racism after all. She's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast. So Scott had to deal with Sunny Hostin and her typical self.
Greg Gutfeld dared to say what many were thinking. The Emperor had no clothes, while the Emperor, in this case, sobbed into her designer coffee mug. Naturally, social media exploded. Within minutes, Twitter was flooded with memes. One particularly brutal post showed Sunny Hostin with the caption, "Strong opinions, weak spine." Another featured her crying on The View, tagged with, "When you realize receipts don't lie." Even apolitical viewers started to take notice. Turns out when you preach about civility while openly trashing half the country, people remember. Meanwhile, Gutfeld's segment went viral. His sarcastic, no-frills takedown of Sunny's behavior struck a chord with an audience exhausted by the same recycled cable news talking points. Week after week, like stale bathwater, IT was a masterclass in media critique. Gutfeld exposed The View for what it often is. Not a genuine discussion, but a live-action Tumblr thread with a studio audience and professional lighting. It's not a debate. It's synchronized swimming, where everyone knows the choreography in advance, and anyone who cannonballs into the pool gets booed for disrupting the piece.
Like this chick, we didn't think it was the best thing that could have happened to us. Although it did get Joy Behar to wear a mask. You make me sick. It's funny, her being named Joy is like me being named Ugly.
What made the whole thing even more satisfying was watching The View scramble to reframe the entire debacle. Suddenly, this wasn't about Sunny Hostin's hypocrisy. No, this was about protecting women from public attacks. It was about standing up to bullying. Apparently, pointing out glaring contradictions now qualifies as a federal hate crime. The truth? The View has become a safe space for ideas that have never had to survive a serious adult conversation. Sunny Hostin and her co-hosts aren't interested in real debate. They're hosting a daily self-esteem seminar wrapped in the guise of political commentary. The moment logic, consistency, or, heaven forbid, sarcasm enters the room, the whole operation collapses like a dollar store umbrella in a hurricane. That Sunny's meltdown wasn't shocking. It was inevitable. She's been stacking a tower of contradictions for years, brick by brick, quote by quote. All Greg Gutfeld did was sneeze, and the whole thing came crashing down.
Did you watch the whole thing or just the parts that I sent you?
I watched it. Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, what I would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off.
Yes.
When she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic.
And of course, no modern meltdown is complete without a rebranding. Sunny Hostin launched into a teary-eyed monologue about growth and the courage to be vulnerable. Translation: please forget that I got exposed playing Calvin ball with my own principles on live TV. Honestly, it was almost impressive. Watching The View spin a full-blown exposure of hypocrisy into a teachable moment about healing could have been the plot of the next Marvel movie. Gaslighters assemble. Meanwhile, Gutfeld just kept winning. No yelling, no outrage, just that trademark smug smirk that sends the professionally offended into orbit. He knows how the game works. Point out that the Emperor has no clothes. And suddenly you're accused of attacking body positivity. Poor Sunny's trapped in a feedback loop. Every time she tries to climb back onto her pedestal of moral superiority, someone casually reminds her of that tiny moment when she melted down faster than butter in a microwave after being confronted with her own words. She's not just a TV host anymore. She's a living meme.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist.
Sunny Hostin's televised breakdown has become an eternal example of what happens when emotional manipulation finally meets actual accountability. In a just world, The View would take this moment to reflect, to maybe, just maybe, consider inviting guests with different perspectives, encouraging real debate, and rediscovering the lost art of speaking like adults without needing a fainting couch every time someone disagrees. But let's be honest, the chances of The View embracing intellectual honesty are about as likely as Sunny Hostin winning a Pulitzer Prize for political courage. Instead, we can fully expect the next few episodes to include emotional support llamas, guided breathing exercises, and a 3-part series titled Why Feelings Are More Important Than Facts. An exploration.
More time to talk. And I thought Will Smith wouldn't let a black man finish. If her IQ was half as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. And later it got weird after Whoopi Goldberg asked a question and Sunny chimed in.
And Sunny? She'll keep pretending she's on the high ground, confusing altitude with morality. She'll deliver heartfelt speeches about how truth matters, all while dodging anything that resembles actual truth like it's radioactive. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld will keep doing what he does best, reminding America that not only is the emperor naked, but he's demanding a standing ovation for his imaginary wardrobe. And yes, it got weird. At one point, Whoopi Goldberg asked a question, and Sunny chimed in with something so out of sync it felt like watching a glitch in the Matrix. If her self-regard were as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. But instead, we got a televised train wreck. And honestly, it was a gift. Because at the end of the day, Sunny's meltdown wasn't just about being exposed. It wasn't even about politics. It was about the inevitable collision between fragile egos, manufactured outrage, and the cold, hard wall of reality. The View spun the wheel, and this time, it landed on public humiliation. And boy, did we laugh.